Čiobiškis Manor Palace obtained its current classicist form in 1815–1826, after it was acquired by Jonas Pilsudskis. There are speculations that the palace may have been designed by Laurynas Gucevičius. The authorship, however, still remains unknown. The building represents one of the types of manor houses typical of that time. It is a one-story building with mezzanine, the shelter of which turns into a two-story part at the center. There is an imitation of the portico slightly protruding from the general plane of the facade, where a rather unusual element, rectangles arranged at the corners at the inner semicircular pilasters, is distinguished. The building is crowned by a relatively low triangular pediment. The eastern facade is identical, complemented with a balcony with the view to the impressive panorama of the river confluence. As is typical of the Classicism, the corners of the palace are highlighted by rustic stones. The symmetry, typical of the buildings of this style, is broken by the northern extension, although it is believed that the latter is a part of the old manor ensemble. The purpose of the palace changed later on, and there are still a lot of old painted decorations hiding under the subsequent layers of plaster and paint. We can see a representative zone facing the front facade of the palace. There used to be a flower garden closer to the palace, and the officine and stable buildings are arranged a little further from it. The officine has significantly changed, but the stable building has recently regained its previous appearance. The family of Pildsudskiai that acquired Čiobiškis Manor built a new church in the village between 1810 and 1816. The building of the sanctum of rectangular layout is the example of the late Classicism. The facades of the building are divided by Doric pilasters, which support the entablature. Recessed arches with wooden sculptures of evangelists, as well as triangular cornices, are integrated into the planes surrounded by the pilasters. The front and the back facades are similar, and there are small round lucarnes embedded in massive pediments. A statue of Saint Helena, holding a cross placed above the front facade, echoes Vilnius Cathedral. Doric pilasters separate the naves of the church inside. The same ones divide the walls of the lateral naves as well. Profiled cornices passing on to cylindrical vaults surrounding the naves are at the top. The Baroque forms dominating the side altars contrast with the Classicist portico of the Great Altar. Two chapels were attached at the corners of the churchyard in the middle of the 19th century. Their architecture is laconic, though it reflects the tendencies of Classicism. Their corners are highlighted by protruding pilasters, and there are gabled roofs with triangular pediments above the profiled cornices. Belfries of similar expression are constructed at the other corners of the churchyard. The composition of the lower two sections of the towers is identical to that of the chapels. Gilvonai Church appeared at the end of the 19th century on the initiative of the Counts Pliatara, according to the project of Alexei Polozov. Neo-Baroque two-section main facade somewhat reminds of Italian sanctums of the early Baroque period. There is also a sense of strictness taken over from the Classicism, as well as the synthesis of brick and stone masonry taken over from the Romanticism period. The main elements are made of bricks, and the planes are filled with stone masonry. The interesting fact is that the same fills the pediments of the facades of the transept. The same materiality is reflected in the modest gates of the sanctum as well. The interior is dominated by neo-Baroque. It is especially evident in the expression of the altars. There is a chapel of neoclassicist forms and simplified architecture built in 1842 near the sanctum. Its main accent is a portico with 4 columns supporting a large triangle pediment. The mausoleum chapel of Piotr Żaba, of eclectic expression, situated across the sanctum, is quite similar to it. Education in the interwar Lithuania was a priority field. The number of modern schools constantly grew. By the end of the 1920s, the architect Jonas Krizastemas prepared a typical project for a 2-story school, according to which at least 6 new Lithuanian schools were built near the demarcation line of that time. The architecture of the school of Kernavė reflects the historical tendencies that prevailed during that time. Although the neoclassicistic features were slightly modernized, the buildings still remind of manors. The main part of the front-facing facade is split by pilasters, and the arched main entrance is surrounded by massive columns supporting the balcony. A folklore floral motif visible above the entrances may be identified as a highlight of folklore style. The back facade is vertically split into 2 planes, which separate the rows of windows present on each floor. Classrooms are located on this side.